Hello, friends. Today I have a very special guest, Mr. Nagesh Pai, who is the Associate Director, National Head Retail Sales of A.S.K.Investment Managers Private Limited. And Mr. Ashok is an MBA he has done it in Mumbai University, and he started his career as a banker and joined ING Bank for almost 6 years. And then he was with the ASK from 2011. So he comes with 20 years of PMS experience, and pleasure to have you, Mr. Nagesh Pai.
Thank you. Thank you, Venkat. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And sir, as you know that in India, the penetration of mutual funds have done really well, and there is a increased participation in demat accounts also, where
Correct.
people have become do-it-yourself investor. And you being a PMS service provider who manages the HNI and ultra HNI wealth,
Sure.
and can you
Sure.
start show the journey of Ask PMS and how it can add value in an investor's portfolio when
Sure.
coming to
Sure.
a portfolio management services?
Sure. Sure. First of all, thank you, Venkat, for giving me this opportunity. I think we will definitely, I'll try to share my experience with PMS. You rightly mentioned, I've been serving ASK for last 13 years, and it's been my great pleasure to work with them. And in this industry for now, close to 2 decades plus. So, yes.
Yeah.
Interesting point, Venkat, that you raised. Yes, one thing is, of course, which is very clearly visible is financialization of investments, which is what is gearing up and catching more and more pace every day. Interestingly, if you look at it, investors 40 years back or maybe 50 years back, and Venkat, you will agree with me that it started with maybe fixed deposits as a source of investments, or maybe
Yeah.
government Kisan Vikas Patra kind of stuffs, which used to do very very well. 20 years back, mutual funds came into foray, and today we are seeing acceptability of mutual funds increasing. No
Yes.
doubt, we have seen the kind of SIPs that have been growing in terms of number of investors new coming in, as well as assets which are growing in. Also, one very very interesting thing is happening today is PMS or AIFs have also gained lot of significance in this time. Does data show that? Of course, yes, data definitely shows that kind of a stuff. Just to give you some numbers, Venkat, and I'm sure your investors would like to know that too. Mutual funds have grown 10 times in last 10 years. So if I have to put some numbers, mutual funds were roughly around 1,65,000 crores in the equity part that we are talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Today, when we talk about equity mutual funds, it stands at around close to 18 lakh crore plus minus here and there. So we have seen close to a 10 times jump in mutual funds in last 10 years. So definitely acceptability has grown.
Yes.
When we talk about PMS, especially category that we are talking about is equity over here. If you're talking about equity PMS discretionary part, it was barely around 15,000 crores, uh, maybe 10 years back. And as we speak today, the acceptability has grown so much that we have raised to it to around 2,65,000 crores. And this is only the
Oh.
discretionary pace that we are talking about.
Oh.
So we have
Okay.
seen a growth of close to 14 times in this particular space. When we talk about AIFs, and there are three categories of AIF, which is category one,
Cat
category
one,
two,
two,
and
three.
category
Yeah.
three. ASK does only Cat 3, ASK Investment Managers. And if you look at that space, it didn't exist 10 years back. But in last 7 years, where their assets were around less than 5,000 crores, today it has crossed 80,000 crores. So we have seen a 17
Ah.
times or 18 time jump, which is a huge
Yeah.
jump in this particular
Very
space, which
huge.
is
Yeah.
clearly visible in this particular space that acceptability of PMS and AIF has improved. Now,
Correct.
the question arises, why did we see this kind of a change which has happened? Okay. And no
Yes.
doubt, PMS or alternates, or specifically, let me come to PMS first, gives you that benefit of having flexibility, okay, customizable, transparency, all these things are given, okay, when it is all about PMS, because, PMS is something which flexibility is one of the reason why
Yes.
investors get attracted towards PMS. Transparency, I would say, is a tad better than maybe
Yeah.
mutual funds, because stocks are held by you in your own
Yes.
demat, so you are the owner
Correct.
of those stocks rather than having units specifically in mutual funds. And of course, in terms of customizable, it is also possible because there are investors who come as a customizable requirement which comes into
Correct.
PMS. But one of the most interesting thing that we have been observing for last 10, 13 years at least, I have seen where, why investors are coming in into PMS or AIF has been the reason of increasing disposable income, which is happening in India. And there have been various data which has proven that disposable income in India is growing leaps and bounds. Okay,
Correct.
and Venkat, with increasing disposable income, an individual can do only two things: either he saves more or he spends more. Okay, there is nothing
Yes.
else that he can do. And if I decide to maybe spend more, and let me explain you with an example. Maybe 10 years back or 12 years back, going to a restaurant was once in a quarter or once in a month kind of a event which we all sat in
Yes.
the family together and planned
Correct.
that we will go to restaurant on this particular date for dinner. But today it's become once in a
Every
week, maybe
weekend.
twice in a week that we go with the family.
Yeah.
Okay. Similar way, traveling from one place to other. If I have to travel locally in Chennai, maybe I used to use a two-wheeler at a point in time 10 years back, but today we use a four-wheeler. Okay. Similar
Correct.
way, it has been replicated in investments also. Like I said, 40 years
Yes.
back, it could be FD. Then people moved into something which was like a credit deposit, where people used to look at private company deposits to invest into. People started to look at mutual funds, and then it came to diversified, then sectoral. Similar thing now, investors are looking to upgrade self into
Correct.
PMSs as one of the vehicle for their investments. Okay, so that is
Yes.
something which has been observed. You rightly mentioned, is there data to show that people are looking to get into direct equities or PMS? Of course, yes, because like you
Yes.
rightly mentioned, there has been a boom of demat holders in India. The numbers,
Correct.
if I talk to you
After
today,
COVID. Yeah.
12, yeah, post COVID. Because pre COVID, it was around 3.5 crores for a length of time. We had seen buys, ups and dips, which had happened in number of demats, but it's been a one way ride that has happened over here, where 12.5 crores of demat have opened
Oh,
till now.
correct.
So if you look at the growth, it's been upwards of 30% growth that has happened in number of demats that have happened post COVID or 2019 kind of an period that we are talking about, which clearly shows that do it yourself kind of a stuff, or investors are looking to participate into direct equities at this point in time. Okay, so it
Yeah. And
is
yeah.
yes,
It's
and
a interesting thing, sir. Yeah, which you brought into notice. What I wanted to understand is that investing is a combination of art and science. It requires a lot
correct,
of research, and
correct,
you at the Ask Investment Managers
yeah,
are also providing advice where investors can look at their
yes,
portfolio for a
and
review also. Yeah, and
right,
also you have the option of coming
correct,
into PMS being a high ticket size, a 50 lakh. It
correct,
can be a combination of both equity as well as cash. Can you
correct,
explain
bang
me and
on, bang
how
on.
investors can have more professional approach and how they can take the wealth creation when India is transitioning from 3 trillion to 6 trillion?
Bang on, bang on. I think Venkat, that was my second point. One thing is you participate into direct equity. Okay. Second is how many people successfully come out of that investment is also a question which needs to be answered. Okay. Because, do it yourself looks very, very attractive. Like I said, 12.5 crore of demat, but active demats are merely 3 crore today. Okay.
Oh,
If you look
okay.
at most of the cases where retail investors have got stuck, are where they have been not been able to exit. They did it on their own because some marquee investor or somebody gave you a tip to invest in that. But when we did an analysis, retail investors are the one who have got stuck in there where others have exited, and that's where ASK comes into picture.
Yes.
Like you rightly mentioned, ASK in terms of pedigree is the oldest PMS house in India, having
Yeah.
a track record of now close to 4 decades. Okay, so ASK was conceived in 1983.
Mhm.
ASK got into PMS license in 1995. Amongst the first to take the PMS license in India and started the PMS scheme. And when Mr. Bharat Shah, who's the executive director at ASK Investment Manager, joined in 2001, we started the first PMS scheme at ASK. Now that's been the oldest and the longest running PMS scheme in India, which has a track record of 22 years plus. Okay, and it's been
Yeah.
doing phenomenally well.
And
Also,
you are the largest asset manager also with
that's what.
36,000 crores. Yes.
Correct. We manage today 37,000 crores of assets, okay, making us the largest PMS house in India today. And that's something which is a feather on our cap today, where we have been able to maintain this position over a length of time. You rightly mentioned, Venkat, that
Yeah.
we at ASK provide that opportunity to investors where investors can participate through stocks. Stock
Yeah.
transfers are possible with us. I mean, we give you that particular portfolio reviews by which you are
Yes.
free to decide which stocks you want to keep and which stocks you want to exit. And basis
Yes.
that, one of the benefit that you have in PMS is that you have some existing stocks which typically can be transferred into us, which are not doing
Correct.
well. And then maybe you
Yes.
can decide to trim it, reduce it, alter it basis the comfort that you have. But yes, that service, like
Yeah.
Venkat you mentioned, is provided by
Yeah.
us
Great.
as and
It's
when the
you are the
customers.
only person who are doing this in the industry. In fact, that
Yeah,
is one.
yeah, we are
Yeah.
amongst the few, but yes, I take your point that we are
Yeah.
them who are doing it over a period of time. But it's been
Yeah. And
interesting. It's been interesting.
yeah, and this is being an affluent investments with a minimum ticket of 50 lakhs. That is why SEBI has also made it mandatory to clear the PMS examination. So
Correct.
the partners who are partnered with it is always comes with the relevant certification. So for a affluent investor who is looking at wealth creation, who is looking at retirement corpus, or who is looking at donation or whatever, how important is PMS and AIFs in his portfolio beyond mutual funds? Can you throw some light?
Correct. Yeah, and interesting thing that I have observed is, like I was mentioning, as investors upgrade themselves, they look at PMS and AIF to be a part of their core portfolio. Okay. Now, one thing is very clear. One thing is how you create returns is very very critical. Okay, and second thing is, of course, risk is also something which is very very critical into the portfolio. Now what
Correct.
I believe is, returns is a byproduct of what you actually input. Okay, so the
Yes.
risk is something which is in our control. Okay, and that is something we at ASK have always endeavored, because our philosophy at ASK has always been to preserve and then grow money rather than just
Yeah.
growing at all point in time. Okay, and that's why if you look at it, our philosophy revolves around capital preservation and capital appreciation, and in that
Yes.
particular order, for all the investors that have been with us over a length of time. Okay, and that is something where we have been able to create a niche for ourselves. That you know what I always generally share with investors is, treat us as a core of your holding. ASK Investment
Yes.
Managers will always be a core of your holding. Okay, and generally, we would like to position ourselves that we are for investors who have made money, want their money to grow, but at a certain level of risk. Okay, and that is what we endeavor to do in all our portfolios which have happened, and that is why we have been able to gain the trust of our investors and grow in last decade to be the largest PMS house in India today. So that is something, Venkat, we have always been very, very mindful of while we have taken these investment calls at ASK.
Yeah, your core
Quality,
philosophy of size of the pond is very unique,
correct, correct,
which
correct, correct.
you
No,
have it
no,
in the.
yes, and that is what brings quality into our portfolio, because our we never compromise on quality. Okay, that is something which is given at ASK. That quality of the stocks will never be questioned. That is something which is inherent whether you select any portfolios which are there at ASK. And we have developed our in-house philosophy where we look at a couple of parameters before we select a particular stock into our portfolio. So we look at the size of opportunity in that particular space, like you rightly mentioned. It is not how important the size of the fish is for us, it is how big the pond is. Because if a fish is capable enough, it can sail through in a big pond. But if your pond itself is small, however capable the fish is, will die over a period of time, and that is something which is very very critical that we look while we construct portfolios. Also, importance is given to parameters which is return on capital employed, very very significant parameter for us, that we look while we construct portfolios. We look at earnings growth, and we also look at buying these stocks at a margin of safety is something that we critically look while we buy any stocks into the portfolio. Now, mind you, none of these parameters which I spoke to you are or keep. I like one stock. Let me excuse one of the parameters. No, all these parameters have to be looked at while you buy this portfolio, while you buy a stock in your portfolio. And quality of the management is something which is of the biggest or highest importance, which is the guiding factor for all of these parameters that we have. So that is something which we have been able to create over a length of time, and we have stuck to it over a period. So that is what helped to create returns for our customers.
Yeah, and since being an affluent product, what is the minimum holding period a client has to come when he is investing in a PMS? So, what is your experience or your company's experience with the
Correct,
investors which you have
correct.
across the spectrum?
This is one of the debate that we always come across. What is the holding period? Okay. If you ask me, what is the holding period that you should have with
Eternal,
ASK portfolios? Okay. I would say lifelong. Okay. Because,
eternal, yeah.
there's no
Equity
reason
is
that
eternal,
you should look to
yeah.
exit from ASK portfolios, because, like I said, unless you need money, okay, then
Hmm.
what is the reason that you should
Correct.
exit? There will be ups and dips into the portfolio performance till the time you are looking to make that double digit compounding over a length of time. I don't think there is any reason, but that is on academic purpose or my personal
Yeah.
way of looking at it. Okay, now if I have to talk specifically about ASK, we have seen customers who have joined or been with us to hold for a duration of at least 5 years. Okay, and that has been historically that we have seen. But I'm saying that
Mhm.
if an investor is coming into equity, he should have a mindset of at least 5 to 7 years. This could be a mutual fund, this could be a PMS. But I would say that if you're coming into a equity product, and if you're giving or trusting a particular fund manager for him to create alpha for you over a period, I think it is justified that you give at least 5 to 7 years for this fund manager to create that alpha. I think not less than that, at least when you're coming into equity, and specifically for PMSs, you should have a horizon of at least 5 to 7 years.
Excellent. So, as you have different products like growth portfolio, Indian entrepreneur portfolio, and other things,
Correct,
can you
correct.
just throw light on the performance from inception till date and how
Yeah,
much of alpha you have generated over the benchmark and others?
yeah. Good question, I think. Venkat, like I was mentioning in my preamble, that we have our oldest PMS has a track record of 22 years, which is called as ASK Growth
Growth
PMS.
fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this is the oldest PMS in India. There is no other PMS which has a track record of 22 years. This PMS in last 22 years have created total CAGR post fees and expenses in upwards of 18.5%. Benchmark during that same time, which is Nifty 50, has created in the range of around 13 to 14% returns. So it has been able to create that 5 to
Yeah.
6% alpha in that 22 years. Now that alpha is very very significant, because
Very, very significant.
in
Hmm.
number terms, if I have to just explain you, if you had invested a crore of rupees in Jan 2001, which is the inception date of this portfolio, your current value of your portfolio would have been in upwards of 43, 44 crores, versus a crore invested in the market would have been 20 crores kind of a number. Now,
Correct.
that's the significance of that
That's
5
the
to 6%
significance.
alpha, which has
Yes.
been generated over a period of time. And that's why compounding is the eighth wonder which has happened.
Yes.
Again, if you look at our flagship PMS, which is the Indian Entrepreneur Portfolio, I mean, one of the unique propositions I would say that
Yeah.
is there in the industry today, where we look at only promoter run businesses. Not all
Businesses. Yeah.
promoter run businesses qualify into this portfolio. We have very, very stringent filters to look at. Okay, so we look at promoter holding of at least 25%. We look at a profit before tax of at least 100 crores in the financial year. We look at a ROC of 25%, earnings growth of 20%, and then we create a portfolio of around 23 to 25 stocks into this portfolio. Most of
Mhm.
our weights are equated over here, and this portfolio has been up and running since last 13 years. So Jan 2010 is the inception date of this portfolio, and this portfolio we manage today 20,000 crores plus. So this is the largest single PMS scheme in the PMS space today, in the discretionary space.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's
Okay.
how largest this PMS scheme is. And if you look at the compounding of this portfolio in last 13 years have compounded at 17.4% post fees and expenses versus 12.3% of the benchmark. Okay, so
Mhm.
benchmark is BSE 500 over here, and
Mhm.
that's the kind of alpha where we have been
It's
able to
fantastic.
create. Okay, and you have to stay patient. You have to give time to invest to the fund manager to create alpha for you.
Correct.
So one of the most beautiful strategies that investors should look at participating.
Wonderful. So, what is your final comments to my investors who wants to experience PMS and who wants to explore AF? And I believe AF will also become too big in the times to come.
Yes,
You are already a big player in the category three
correct.
AF.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct, correct.
So,
Yes, you rightly mentioned AIF has been catching a lot of attention. We have around close to 6,000 crores in AIF also out of this 37,000 crores that we manage today. I think
oh,
one thing is very clear. We are all as investors coming into equity to beat inflation and create alpha over here. Okay,
yes,
our expectation from a equity strategy should not be unreasonable. Yes, there could be euphoria in the market where some part of the market does very well, some part of the market doesn't catch up during that same point in time. But if our expectation is reasonable, I think then we should be happy with investing into equities. Disappointment happens when our expectation with equities is unreasonable. Okay, and
yes,
that leads to mistake where you start chasing returns and get into bad quality businesses, which reduces or destroys your wealth
yeah,
completely. Okay,
yeah,
so stay away from that. Equities need experts like Venkat to handhold you. Equities leads managers like us to manage the portfolio. And like I mentioned, that if it was do it yourself, it would have been the most easiest thing to do. But it is not the case that it is. So my part is buy good quality businesses, stay invested with them length of time. You might have to stay a little longer, but you will make returns into these kind of businesses. So don't compromise on quality while you are looking for your portfolios. That's the message, Venkat, we should give to all our investors today.
definitely, sir. It's been a very enriching thought from you and the importance of PMS and alternate investment funds to be part of the portfolio. I will connect with you once again some other time to describe more on the AF category. Thank you very much for being my guest for the benefit of my investor, and
Always a
we will have
pleasure.
a long journey.
Thank you very much, Venkat. Thank you for giving this opportunity, and more than happy to connect as many times as you request. No worries. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity.